probably best that I sit down for this one. Obviously, the dogs miss me now that I'm back from vacation, but lesson learned apparently, I am not allowed to vacation at all during the LCS season, especially during a Super Week, or we are going to go 3-0 no matter what. I'm going to cover pretty much all 3 games in this one. I don't feel like I properly got to talk about Wednesday to a certain extent, but I also notably did skim through all the games this week, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have the utmost understanding of every single individual thing that went wrong in the games. It's more of a looking back and trying to assess where we're at. I do want to first talk about, though, the cost tweet that came out yesterday. In hindsight, we went 0-3. And if somebody on this team, or multiple players, are saying they don't know what to do, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a coaching issue to the extent that Cost might be making it out to be. While, yes, your players shouldn't be in that position, and you as a coach probably should have done more to make sure that they have an understanding of how to claw games back from a deficit, let's not act like Bjergsen and Doublelift haven't been around for a long period of time and are the veterans that you should be relying on to go into these games and these situations and know how to claw your way back. This is literally the stuff that Doublelift has talked about on his live stream for years now. Bjergsen's been playing for such a long period of time. There's no situation where this composition of people should not have at least one voice in the call in mid to late game situations that can strategize a way back into things. If we truly don't have that, that's worrying for Doublelift and for Bjergsen in terms of their ability to also lead these rookies on, because that's not on Busio and Tenacity to be shot calling those moments late or have that understanding, especially in the heat of the moment where they're already dealing with nerves and everything else on stage in their first split. That has to come from the veterans, and the fact that nobody had a closer, Bjergsen or Doublelift, apparently was able to calm that is worrying, because that I don't know. We'll see how that goes on. Starting with Friday, we touched on it briefly in the other video about the bad macro call that was made. It was what it was. The gold trading that needed to be a little bit better from our side continued to be a theme into Saturday, where we have these comps that can scale, and it just seems like we are making every wrong decision to a certain extent in terms of maximizing what needs to be done to get to our clear win con. Doublelift, at least in Friday and Saturday's games, showed that he could carry the game if put in the right position, if given the right resources in the right time, and he's shown that over the years. It just didn't feel like we ever really got to that point. I don't want to be too overly critical of one particular week, because if you look at CLG, for example, they had a horrible week 3, but obviously bounced back really well in week 4, and are now sitting with a better record than us and beat us, when last week everybody was panicking about, oh, you know, they're washed, they're doomed, nobody has faith in them, etc. I have full faith that we can bounce back. I don't want anybody taking one 0-3 week where we look really bad, where scrims might have been off, something might have happened, as a doomsday scenario where we're not going to get anything done in the future and we are officially out of it. No. We've seen this way too many times. Closer slumps at the beginning of the year, which is becoming less and less of a good reason or excuse, in my opinion. Like, I'm sorry, you do have an expectation to play at a decent level during the regular season, even if you are going to kick it on and turn it on later in the year. Sure, you still have to perform now. You really do. And there were multiple times now within specifically Thursday and Friday's game, on the J4 game against CLG, and then the Maokai game against, was it Golden Guardians? Yeah, Golden Guardians, I think. It seems like we have an early play, like an early gank strat that works well. Or, at least in the CLG case, the idea is there, the execution on J4's case, not so much. And then we just disappear for the rest of the game. Like, we're non-existent. We're just not there. And that's what I don't get. I don't know if that's a mid-pressure thing, because by all means, I know a lot of people were throwing Bjergsen under the bus on Thursday's game, but it really felt like the Jarvan didn't really have much of an impact in the game. Bjergsen, to a certain extent, was doing what he could. Friday, that became very apparent with the Tristana game, where you are a Tristana. Your job is to push in lanes and start roaming, and we just never, like, we made nothing out of the Tristana pick. Actually, there's one fight that I wanted to highlight here where he didn't do much and just got zoned out by Victor the entire time.
Yuri, yeah, he immediately decides he wants to be ready for the team fight. He goes into the middle of everybody. The Croc's in there, but where's the follow-up? The Rift Herald's going to be taken down, secured by River and the Golden Guardians. Lucio at 150 HP, still trying to get away. Ace in the hole, and Closer can't block it.
When you watch some of the best mid laners across the world and they are on these pushing picks, you're pushing for two reasons. One, either to get the tower, get objectives, and get gold on yourself, as well as capitalize on kills and then really snowball that lead to other portions of the map, or to take that pressure and put it elsewhere. We never did that. We were never able to transition any sort of level of prio there. And then on the other comps that we played, where Bjergsen's been more passive in lane and played it pretty much the same way, it was just like we give up pressure and then we never find it again. Like, we give it up to scale, but then we never scale, or we take fights at the wrong times that just feel horrible. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know the game better than the coaches or the players or anybody else involved with this situation, because I don't. I'm just sitting here as a fan, seeing worrying signs of what's to come, and what I mentioned Friday on, like, a playstyle that's just not gonna, like, attract a lot of fans. You look at the comparison of bot lane and how exciting it is to watch anytime the double it boosts you over lane, even if we are dying or trading kills that might not work out in our favor. For example, Friday, whenever we traded the early Lucian Nami kill, but then Caitlyn stays alive versus the Nami in lane, and then Caitlyn just gets further ahead and it snowballs out of control as they're able to transition pressure and get jungle priority down bot lane. It's like, they're at least fun to watch to a certain extent, whereas I can't think of, at least this week and even a little bit the week prior, a time where, like, mid jungle was, like, really fun to watch for us, like, where we're actively, like, making plays, affecting other lanes, and doing anything notable in that regard. I don't know what the answer is here, and again, I'm not going to hit the panic button whatsoever. That's not happening, but it's definitely worrying. And it's like, I mean, now we got to get the same level of crap, understandably, that CLG got the week prior, sure, or that TSM got the week prior, sure. We deserve it. It'll hopefully kick our ass and we'll come back in scrims and be perfectly fine. But oh boy, this week is rough. Doublelift as well, even though I just hyped him up a little bit in terms of his excitingness in lane and watching him in game. Quite a few times where he's also out of position as well. Notably, I think it was the CLG fight. I'll play the clip here.
Kraken Slayer done for Luger, making sure that he's got a little bit more power than Doublelift directly right now. Let's see what they can find. They're ready to go for a 4v3, and it's CLG looking for Doublelift. Contracts wants to take him out. He's nearly got him. There's the Vault Breaker. He'll break his face. It's 2 kills over to CLG.
Like, that's my level of greed and goal. Like why we pushed up there when we don't have vision of their jungler, and I think there was probably a call out mid that they're roaming bot. Why we up there? Where's the communication going on, and what is happening here? Nevertheless, I think it'll ultimately be fine. Again, I'd rather make those mistakes with him greeding out or actually, like, trying to do something than us sitting back doing nothing and losing consistently like that. We'll see how things go. I know this is not as long of a video as some people might want this to be. Some people might want me to just go off on the team and snap, and it's like, no, there's no reason for that. There's no point. We're done with the first round robin. We have a negative win record, but ultimately all we have to do is make playoffs. We make playoffs, and all of it's irrelevant. Because some of you might forget, EG did not look good last year until they hit playoffs. And even then, at the beginning of playoffs, it was still a little bit rough. So, no, I'm sorry. Like, there's more than enough time left here. I'm not worried. I've seen enough from Tenacity to know that he can carry these games. His tank plays decent. I wouldn't say it's phenomenal. He's not. I wouldn't put him in the. Actually, no. Let me do this now. Let me go through and rank where I think every individual player on 100 Thieves is relative to the rest of the league right now. Whether I think that's in line with expectations or worse than we thought. Tenacity, I would say, is like right around the middle. Like I'd say five-ish. I would say that's about to be expected. He's a rookie in the league. He's had some games where he can carry and pop off. He's had a good bit of games where his positioning is not great, and he's late to fights, and that's a little bit problematic. And he's got to learn, and hopefully he will come around. But I would say 5th, and that's perfectly fine and acceptable. Closer, I think, might have a case, barring Santorin and Kemby. Okay, Santorin and Kemby are definitely worse. But barring that, I think Closer has had an abysmal start of the split. I'd solidly put him at 8th right now. Like, behind Contracts, behind Boogie, behind everybody else at the top of the table above him. Even, I mean, Piosik hasn't been playing great either. But I feel like Piosik is I'd put him at the same level as Piosik. So, like, 7th, 8th currently. Which, not surprising. Again, Closer tends to do that. But that's just, come on. For a guy that's supposed to be a top 2 jungler in the league, no. That should not be happening. And hopefully he turns around. Hopefully it clicks and we'll be good. But we got to clean up some of those. We got to get more proactivity here. I get you're not on a playmaker, but come on. We can't keep doing this. Bjergsen, tough to tell. He hasn't done anything to fully lose us games, but he also hasn't done anything to really win us games either. It seems like the games that we've won have come almost exclusively through bot lane. I don't know if that is a byproduct of us specifically playing that style or not, but nevertheless, like, I quite frankly, at this point, I'd just rather see him on Galio or like some of the more supportive mid lane picks. Like, just, I mean, well, it's too early on to pigeonhole ourselves like that. We have to wait until playoffs to like really get into it. But overall, I'd say like Bjergsen, like bottom 5 mid laner in the LCS. But I don't think like anybody in mid lane bar and like Vikla has looked good. Gory has looked great. Palafox has looked good. Diplex has also looked really good. Damn. Okay, yeah, definitely bottom 5. Never mind. Doublelift, I would still put top 5 in the league. I think there's a lot of conversation around like who's the best. I think Stixay got the better of him on Golden Guardians. Those trades. Well, we'll go bot lane as a duo. Doublelift, Busio. Ultimately, I think they're fine. They're getting in lane. I think they're one of the best laning duos in the league. They're consistently getting ahead of almost every counterpart that they have, but it just never translates after that, which makes me wonder if that's a jungle mid thing, because it just seems like they are winning most lanes. They're taking aggro trades. They're doing the right things, and it just never seems to translate. So that could be like a mid to late game shot calling thing from them, but at least in lane, I would put them as the #1 bot lane. Overall, they're still top 5, but they're definitely not #1. Berserker's Vent have looked great. FBI Vulcan have looked great. Trying to think who else. Obviously, Prince and Ayla, or well, Prince and Winsome, look good. Like, there's a lot of bot lanes that look good outside of just lane, but in lane, I'd say we're doing really good. We just need to translate that better elsewhere. And it's nice to see Doublelift drawing bans like Jinx and some of these late game carries, because people understand that he will carry a game for you, which I think is good. I think that's our win con, and that's perfectly fine to have. We just have to see how that translates later, because if there's one thing that Worlds has shown me, it's that your mid-jungle duo is so important. And you might win the LCS with bot lane, and by all means, I'll be happy if we do that. But I do want to see some development from our mid-jungle synergy now, rather than later, so that if we, in a world where we do end up going to MSI, we are a little bit more prepped. Anyways, that ended up being a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. A little bit more rambly, but overall, you know, had you told me at the beginning of the year we were going to be 4-5, I wouldn't have been too surprised. I think it's just the way that it happened all at once that makes it a little bit more painful. But I do think we will rebound. I don't think we're, at least as of right now, at risk of not making top 6. Next week is going to be a big test. We do have Team Liquid, which is going to be a major win. If we can win against them, that'll solidify a 2-0 record against them and give us the tiebreaker. I forget who our first game is, but we just need to make sure we're cleaning up the wins against the teams below us. We cannot afford to give up anything beyond that. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you all for tuning in. I will be back to daily episodes of this starting next Friday and Saturday. No interviews from me, obviously, this week because I was on vacation, but I am going to talk about the Sven drama on Monday because I got called out on Twitter for it a little bit as well. And I think that deserves its own video. So I'll have that on Monday and probably a gameplay video maybe on Wednesday, but we will see. So with that said, I will catch you all on the next one. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment which 100 Thieves player has impressed you the most, and who do you think needs to work on their stuff a little bit more. Let me know.